Stream, stream, stream.
That's the remix. I love it.
All right, I'm going live.
J-O-E in the place to be. HB on the track, it's like ecstasy. Rolling a well of 7 years, what we drinking be. Trying to sling the dopest rhymes in the galaxy. Let me take a minute though and relax your mind. Sometimes these words can be hard to find. 24/7 on that daily grind. Hearing voices in my head, man, they not that kind. Cause bitches be bitching, snitches keep snitching. The world keeps turning, and I keep hitching a ride. Instead of living my life. Yo, 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 yo.
Man, when you feel hungry, don't you have to eat?
Yo, yo, pump up the volume and digest this beat.
Rapscallions in the house with this lyrical treat.
When we're done with you, you're gonna ice your feet.
If the world ends tomorrow and you had one chance,
Hey, yo, would you start to move like it's your last dance?
yo, do something small in the past and present changes.
Do something now, the future rearranges.
Cause bitches keep bitching.
Yo, snitches keep snitching.
Here we go. Here we go. It's episode 20. We got a big show. Yeah, the title of the show is Mega Projects, and we waited for episode 20 to do it. So let's kick off, Joe. I'm going to start sharing. You tell us about your week and then introduce the topics that we're going to cover today so that we can get started and get our guest on here. Very special guest.
Sweet indeed. A very, very special guest. And I love how you said that it was a big show, and it's a big show talking about mega projects because it's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. I don't think people even know how mega it's going to be. It's going to be a mega show. A mega show. My week was all right, man. Oh, great news. Scotland's qualified for the first major soccer or football tournament since 1998. Woohoo! Way to go, Scotland. Super happy about that. Super pleased. Super pleased. So they're going to do big things. I had a busy day yesterday. I was helping my parents clean their house. And, I realized I was going through a lot of my old stuff. Feels like I did all that old stuff yesterday. Made me feel super old. It's crazy.
It made you feel old.
Made me feel super old.
Well, talk about feeling old. Let's go. My week was pretty uneventful, but
Yeah.
talking of old, let's go back to 2006.
Oh,
There
no.
was a referendum in Panama about widening the canal. I mean, do you remember that back in the day? Do you remember that?
I don't remember it at all. I was only 10 years old when that happened, so I didn't vote.
Oh, smack. Well, yeah, I was of voting age. I must have been around 18. So I do remember it. I had a lot of concerns, but I was like, you know what? Progress. It's time we make progress. So I voted yes.
Yeah.
And that's called foreshadowing, Joe.
Yeah, I did vote, actually. I was lying. I wasn't 10 years old. I wish I would have been 10 years old, but didn't. I voted, and I actually voted no, man. I voted
Really?
no because I was like, I don't feel like we're ready for this right now.
Huh.
I don't feel so. I mean, I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a great idea. It was necessary, but I didn't trust. I always thought there were like conspiracies, QAnon and stuff like that, ulterior motives, people in the back, puppets. But anyways, I'm glad we got it because it was needed.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, today we're going to talk about mega projects. So, including the old canal, the new canal expansion, and mega projects in the U.S. And to do that, we brought in a very special friend of mine. We go way back. That's another top secret friend. I can't tell you where. We go way back, but also, all of you guys out there know that Joe and I met in the theater.
Mhm.
And so this very special friend of mine also has history in the Theater Guild. So without further ado, let's introduce Daniel Norman, PE. I guess that means engineer, not physical education. So here comes Daniel Norman. Welcome to the show. Very happy to have you here. Very smart guy, very cool guy. We've hung out a lot over the years, and to be able to have him on the show is I'm very proud of this evening. So, enough of my rambling. Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your education, and a little bit about your experiences at the Theater Guild.
Right on. Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. Honestly, it's a pleasure to join you today, talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart, obviously, construction and mega projects. But a little bit about me. Obviously, HB, you and I, Pablo High School, born and raised in Panama, in the Canal Zone. After graduating, went off to Notre Dame. Froze. Didn't realize you couldn't wear flip-flops in December in Northern Indiana. My mom and dad warned me, but you don't listen at that age, right?
Yeah.
And so after that, started my career in civil engineering. And but yeah, the early on in the formative years, the theater guild there in Ancon did play a huge part in both making friends, learning how to speak publicly, dealing with drop of the dime decisions. When you forget your lines, what do? You can't just disappear behind stage. You got to make a decision and move on. So HB and I do share that love of theater, and Jose, I know you do too. So
yeah. So I mean, the first play that I was ever in, my good friend Dan Norman was in the crowd, and he surprised me at curtain call. I took my bow, my legs were shaking, and you hear about people throwing flowers at you, but this was even better. He came up and brought me a bottle of abuelo. Can you believe it?
That's amazing. That's a true
what
friend.
better thing than flowers could there be than a botella de ron? I think it was a half gallon of abuelo. I was like,
that is a true
Love
friend,
this guy.
man.
Love this guy.
and that feeling you get it when you finish your first show, it's incredible. And so I'm glad I was able to share that one with the HB. Remarkable.
Thanks, man. Thanks for being there.
That is beautiful.
They say once you start theater, it keeps bringing you back because how much fun.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, the old theater bug got all of us. So,
Totally.
Aside from the theater, we all have a love of theater. We are talking about mega projects today, and
Mega projects.
being friends with Dan over the years, he's led me into this world of mega projects. And I can tell you, as a mere mortal, it's like I can't even fathom. It's hard for me to understand what he's showing me. And we'll get into that later. We'll have some slides about our visit to the expansion. So let's start off with a simple question. Not a simple question for you, but a simple question for you, but not for us. What qualifies something as a mega project or mega structure?
So believe it or not, this one's actually been debated for a long time. Federal highways, for instance, they can classify a mega project at any level, just because it brings with it certain connotations in terms of procurement and oversight. But I think generally accepted it's about a $500 million threshold for capital expenditure. If you're spending $500 million on bricks and mortar construction and design, that sort of tips the scale and puts you into that mega project realm.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess we could classify each one of our episodes as mega projects because we're racking in at least 500 million on these things, right?
Totally, man.
Call them megacodes.
Oh, jeez. All right, moving right along, guys. I'll only interrupt infrequently with my funny jokes.
And this, sorry, I just had a question. And then these types of projects can be any types. They're not necessarily related to like building something, right? It can be any type of endeavor.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for instance, you have intellectual property or digital projects, right? For instance, fare collection systems. A city like Boston, if they're going to renovate and overhaul all of their fare collection for public transportation, that's a huge expenditure.
Right.
And that would be considered a mega project, even though you don't see bricks and mortar. There's $1 billion being spent in the background on programming, setting up fare collection and those systems. So yeah, it certainly isn't necessarily concrete.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sure. Hey, we got some shout outs here. Jesse is tuning in. He says, Whopping, Danny, and HB. And he made a little comment there, Dan. He says he ain't drinking water.
The water's in this cup.
Yeah, got rum in this one, and rum in this one too. No.
Off camera secret, guys.
So as far as our audience, and you and I, we all grew up in Panama, and Danny and I grew up in the Canal Zone. Can you take us like way back? Like, there's a lot of how do you what's your perspective as an engineer on mega projects, on the differences between, let's say, the French canal endeavor in Panama, their endeavor in Suez, and how it compares to the U.S. and then the Panamanian expansion?
I mean, drawing the parallels between the French efforts and then the subsequent American efforts for the original construction. The French, their design, I think, is what ultimately doomed them. Sea level canal, we know now that was just, it wasn't going to end favorably for anybody. The environment polluted. But really, when the Americans came in, if you look at the effort, they came in without the mindset of let's start construction. They said we've got to get the logistics set up. Simple things: sanitation, education, entertainment. All that stuff for the workforce. Because you can't just deploy workforce into a foreign area and expect them to be able to produce without certain minimum standards that support civilization, right? Clean water, reliable food supplies, cold storage, those types of things. So if you look at a lot of the the monuments and the people we think about, the names that come to mind, Stevens is one. He's a railroad engineer, and they brought a railroad engineer in to dig a hole. So that tells you about how important the logistics were. The other one is Goethals, right? Goethals is a huge, huge name when we talk about the expansion. And his role was sanitation. I mean, getting the isthmus to be a livable, pleasant environment, controlling the mosquito, the vectors, disease spread, and the like. So there's a lot more that goes into construction than just, digging a hole and pouring concrete. And I think that's the thing that people fail to recognize is all of the front end work that you have to do to even start construction. And that was, I think, ultimately what doomed the French was just sort of not being able to grasp that or deploy it properly when they started.
Okay.
Now, fast forward 100 years, and you guys talked about the referendum, 2006, and that was actually visionary. Panama asked its population, "Hey, what do you think? Should we do this?" And from that point, even up to that point, there was a huge amount of study that had been done. The Americans started the excavation back in the 30s for this,
right.
For the second
Third set of logs.
In my back, it was in all of our backyards. We used to swim in those water holes. So the amount of planning and preparation that went in before they even put a shovel in the ground, I think that's what is lost on a lot of people, and it's critical to a project success that you do that before you just rush out and ultimately end up like the French did.
Okay, now let's go a little bit forward in the future. I mean, I see on your list of projects stuff like I-4, which I think most everyone here is driven on. How much of that planning, as far as community, do you have to take into account before you start dropping hammers and stuff?
The good news for me is I get to show up when the shovels show up.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, no, but the I-4 originally was built in the 50s as part of the Eisenhower interstate system. And if you look at that undertaking alone, for the U.S. to roll out interstates across the nation in that period, 50s and 60s, that was a huge, massive undertaking. Fast forward to now, I'm working on this project, and the planning for I-4's expansion actually started back 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so even the deal when they finally closed the contract, that was the contract was actually signed back in 2014. So we're 6-7 years later. So there's a lot of front end work. The United States government actually has a very good program through the EPA. Where with all these projects, they go through an environmental assessment. So when you're affecting the communities, the watersheds, the wildlife, all those things, that's all laid out, and they tell you what you're going to have to do when you're digging or placing concrete or relocating neighborhoods. Things. So I think if we showed you all the studies and all of the environmental impact statements and all those things, it's a stack of paper that you couldn't load around with you. But it's necessary. It's necessary.
Sure. So you mentioned a little bit about growing up in the Canal Zone and swimming in that third set of locks. And another thing I don't want to forget about is you said that a lot of studies had been done before the expansion, the referendum ever came up. Tell us about where you grew up in the Canal Zone and how that pertained to the expansion.
So I was actually born in Gamboa, believe it or not, right there on the Chagres River.
Cool.
Yeah, it's surrounded by jungle. The kid. I don't think we had shoes. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the baby photos.
Chancletas and machete.
Yeah,
that's right. And then moved to Gatun, and I actually, as part of the expansion, we tore out. I think HB, I took you to see it during one of your visits. Norman in the slab of the house was still there when we were out there working on the expansion. So I lived in Gatun and then spent 17 years living in Los Rios. And you look at all the Panama Canal housing, and all of that was built as really a support housing for the people living and working in and around the Panama Canal. Basically, it was a giant workers' camp, right?
Yeah.
And now you look at it now, and it's been reverted back. Wonderful use for Panama, but it really was a special place to grow up because everybody worked for the same interest. Whether it was the schooling, the hospitals, or actually on the canal. It was an interesting time for sure.
Absolutely.
And
you mentioned the excavation that we used to swim in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the excavation there in Gatun, you didn't swim in it. It was full of crocodiles. But the one in Cocoli, they used to have the motorcycle races, if you remember, over on the West Bank. And the one in Cocoli, that was actually a really popular swimming spot. You could jump off the side, clear water. I heard rumors some vehicles were disappeared into the water there, but
wow.
I won't deny or confirm.
Yeah. I was very lucky for I was able to visit the expansion because Danny invited me, and then I was also there in Cocoli for the day of the inauguration. So I was very, very thankful for you for taking me on those trips. We have a few pictures we'll look at later. And it was kind of cool. Look, we got John Trim says Mr. Norman took us down in the tunnels.
That's right.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I remember that trip, John. It was a good time. That was one of the my dad working on the canal is what got me interested in this line of work. Right. Every time there was a chamber outage, he pulled me out of school and let me wander around and take it all in. And John did have he had the pleasure of joining us on one of those trips. It was neat.
Wow.
Cool. Like when you took me on the expansion trip, I was able to go into one of the culverts and explain to me the engineering behind every twist and turn that was in there. And then I was completely overwhelmed, but just the thought of my dad having been in the culvert of the original canal and my great grandfather working on the canal, it was really cool to be on site and be able to experience that. That's pretty neat.
Can we discuss what goes on in these tunnels in the canal? As somebody that's never been inside one of these tunnels, I've only seen pictures. So what are they for? Because my mind can go wild just wondering the amount of things that can happen down there. But what actually happens in these tunnels?
So the original, the canal works on gravity, right? And so we've got the lake that sits 85 feet above sea level, and those culverts, those tunnels are the passageways for the water to leave the lake and then fill each chamber as you lift the ships. And they're actually controlled by a system of rising stem valves.
Right.
So they actually control, open and close those valves to allow the water to pass through those culverts. And I think HP, when we were in expansion, we had what was down there was actually rainwater. But if you ever get the opportunity to go in the old blocks, what's down there is actually the lake, and they can't stop it completely. And so you're standing in knee deep water, rushing by you. It's really breathtaking.
No way.
And you're looking at 100-year-old concrete around you. It's really amazing. So.
Incredible.
But it's really the same principle for the new locks.
Yeah,
they still use gravity, with the one improvement being the water saving basins where they try to reduce the amount of water that's essentially flushed out into the ocean with each transit. But yeah, if anyone ever says, hey, do you want to come check out the tunnels, jump at the opportunity.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Incredible. You could drive a train through those things. It's just...
I mean, absolutely right. They are large enough for freight trains.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling. Ralphie Furlong says, what's up, Danny? Abrazos to everyone.
Hey,
some nice participation. A lot of people tuning in today. I love that. All right. Joe, why don't you take us on to the next talking points here, if you have any.
All right. So, next question, I guess, from a geological perspective, how is the geology of things that affects MegaProjects? Basically the Suez, French, U.S. expansion, other MegaProjects that you have worked on. Because we know there's a lot of work that goes on beforehand, right? But then I also know that, as you mentioned, there's loads of work that goes on beforehand. But then when you're actually there, you're in the project, like say with the canal expansion, we've heard that there were so many cool things from the past that were discovered during these excavations, and it's really incredible because it adds so much to the history of the country, of the location that maybe we weren't aware of, you know? So how do you guys kind of maintain that balance of getting the work done, but then also saying, wait a minute,
We got to protect that.
Yeah, we got to protect that.
So it's actually an interesting dilemma, right? So progress, and looking at geology and all the studies that go in ahead of time before you start digging. That's one of the critical points. You know, when they were digging the Panama Canal, I believe they found fossilized horse remains, which, you know, changed what we thought about the arrival of horses to the New World in terms of where it lie in the strata. But certainly during all the construction phases, there was an eye out to, if we encounter something, we have to actually assess it and make a decision of, do we protect it? Does it get preserved? Does it go in a museum? And so Panama actually had a very, very well detailed plan for how that would be handled. And so similar approaches taken on all the projects I've worked on, where even here in Florida, for instance, there's a road there already. You know, I-4 is an existing corridor, but we still have, you know, encounters where you might find buried artifacts. And so you have to have the system in place to notify everybody, make sure that you're not destroying something that's priceless to history, right?
Yeah.
And I think in Panama, if you look at what Panama did in terms of the Panama Canal and the ACP, they actually cataloged a great number of artifacts, and you know, the written or the history that was sort of, as you mentioned, you know, we know more because of it, right?
Yeah.
The fossils that they were able to catalog and document, that adds to our understanding of how the geological formations formed over the years. You know, we found, for instance, teeth from megalodons in 85 feet above sea level. We found, you know, shark teeth, you know, 4 or 5 inches long. And so it's interesting, but yeah, when you're out there trying to make production and trying to meet schedule, when you find something that has everyone scratching their head, it might make you look, you know, but you still got to do the right thing and catalog, preserve it for everybody, right?
For sure. Because I mean, obviously you're there and you're like, okay, we have a job to do, but then it's like, whoa, we just found a megalodon tooth. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to call in the people that have to, like, you know, sort it out and sort of catalog it and everything. And then you must be thinking like, okay, great, this is super cool, but we got a job to do, right? Like, come on, like, catalog your stuff so we can get to work, right? You must have a lot of patience.
I don't have a lot of patience, but you know, doing the right thing when no one's looking, that's the important part, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And we have someone else tuned in. Sue Norman says, good to see you guys. Big hugs out to you. Proud mom is tuning in to see her son here. Herman Wilkinson says, great info, guys. So we got lots of good family and friends tuning in. You know, one of my favorite stories is, and like how you got hired and some of the things that you brought to the table in addition to being an engineer.
It's actually a really interesting story. You know, obviously, growing up around the Panama Canal, working on the expansion, when I saw the referendum come out, I thought, wow, what a dream job, right? It's just, if I could be in any way be a part of that. But I was living in the States. You know, I had a family, was working in Charlottesville, Virginia, and, you know, regular reader of the engineering magazines, and I actually saw in the ENR, Engineering News Record, an ad. You know, ACP pulled out an ad looking for engineers, Panamanian, but with civil engineering background, bilingual. And I thought, oh, I checked those boxes. So I sent an email. I sent my resume in. You know, let's see what happens. And a few days passed by. This is back in mid 2009. And June 10th, 2009, I wake up. I get some pretty sad news. My father passed away that morning. You know, so I'm like, okay, I gotta run to work, gotta make my final arrangements, square things away, and, you know, take care of that. I go down, my car had been broken into.
Oh, jeez.
Everybody remembers the Garmin GPSs. They took that. I don't know why. They're useless. But so I go to work and I log into my laptop at work, you know, getting ready to just hand off whatever I could so that I could take some time off. and I get an email from the Panama Canal saying, "Hey, we received your information. We'd like to speak to you tonight about an opportunity. What time are you available for a call?" And I thought, wait a minute, this day just took an interesting turn. So the same day my father passed away, who he worked for the Panama Canal for 25 years.
Wow.
I get an email from them that, hey, we're interested. We'd like you to come down and participate in some form. So yeah, from there it was a whirlwind. I think that was June 10th, and August 17th I was living in Panama.
That's so wild.
So I sold everything, packed as much as I could into a container, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And
So having grown up in the Gatun area, did you have any other extra skills and experience to offer the expansion?
yeah, so the position they gave me was actually site coordinator. And so when I showed up, they gave me, they gave me the plans. They assigned me a vehicle. I got a radio and a camera, and they said, go to Gatun. I said, and do what? And they said, go to Gatun, document the site, find out if the site limits as we've laid them out in the plans have any conflicts. The west limit, the eastern limit of the project site was all jungle. And so that was, getting in there and actually exploring it. For me, I was working, but it was really just
How cool.
a day-to-day play trip. I mean, I got to go out there and explore my hometown and get paid for it. It was incredible.
That's amazing. And these were the same jungles that you would run around in as a kid.
Yep.
Wow.
I knew where all the good avocado trees were.
Yeah. And what was that? There was like a retention or a small a culvert or something in the back that had this plaque on it. I think you showed me that one time when we went out. It was 1907 or something like that.
Yeah, 1909.
1909.
Yeah, that was the original railroad spur that fed into Gatun. Back in 1909, they built a series of culverts so that they get the water underneath the railroad. And I showed HB this one. It was buried into the jungle. You had to hike to it.
This is like Indiana Jones type stuff,
And
and then he pulls back some vines. He's chopping with a machete. He's like, "Come down here and see that." I was like, "I'm not going down there." He's like, "Come on." And then he's like, the hidden treasure. He pulls back some vines, and there's a big concrete plaque there with the date.
Wow.
I was like,
and it looked like it was built yesterday.
yeah, it was completely intact. There was there's no apparent degradation in the quality of the concrete.
How amazing. And it was just there by itself.
Yep, that railroad spur has been out of use for years and years, but that structure is going to stay there forever.
Yeah.
How
Susan
incredible.
Milligan's tuning in. She says, "My old backyard is now under the water holding tanks." So that's
Wow.
you tuned in.
My house is actually under Lockhead 2.
What year were you in Gatun? Lockhead 2?
I've got when I left the project, they gave me a map and it's got the coordinates with a star on it, and the office signed it. I got to have it framed one of these days.
Very cool.
So we lived in Gatun from, let me see, 81 to 84, I think. So it was only 3 years. But
What age were you? Like I saw the picture of when you guys. I think when you were putting your names in the concrete, right?
Yeah. I left Gatun when I was turning 6, I believe. We moved to Los Rios, and I started first grade in Los Rios. But we used to ride the train back on weekends because my family had friends over there, some very close friends. So I spent a lot of time, even growing up, even though I didn't live there in my sort of adolescent years, I spent a lot of time in Gatun. It was home to me. So
Very cool.
same as Gamboa. We used to be. You remember HB? You'd hop on the train, and then I remember my mom putting me on the train with my bicycle.
How amazing.
Yep. Go play with your friends.
Yeah.
Send me to Gatun.
Wow.
Good memories.
Yep.
So what was it like when you came back to Panama after all that time? You were in the States, and then you get the opportunity with the ACP for the expansion, and you came back. What was the experience like? Were you kind
Surreal.
of
Surreal.
Were you expecting anything in particular? Were you just kind of coming here with a clear mind, just open mind, and just let whatever happens happen?
No, I was excited at the challenge. I mean, I had worked for. I had actually had a summer job in the administration building in the late 90s. I'd actually worked for sanitation division, when I was in high school. So I'd actually had a few jobs and a few experiences working for the canal, even though I was younger. And really, the canal that's been in the ACP, the Panama Canal Commission, was in transition for 20 years. When I started, it felt like home. I mean, a mix of Spanish and English. The culture was very much the same as when we were younger. And the mission was clear. Like we were all here to do a job, and that was very. And ACP did a fantastic job of onboarding new people, and really focusing on what mattered in terms of where do we need support and who do we need. And so when I joined, it was really just becoming part of a huge team all focused on one effort. The interesting part for me though was my good friends Rob and Yola Dominic. They opened their house to me when I moved back. They have a house there in Balboa. And so I show up on the Isthmus for my new job, and I'm sleeping at a friend's house in Balboa. And my first day for work, I had to report to Ascanio, the training center, which is Balboa High School.
Wow, yeah.
So my first day, I get to walk to school.
How amazing!
Report for work. It was really neat. You walk in the building that I graduated high school from as part of my new job and training. It was pretty surreal.
Wow, that must have been really special.
It was
amazing. Incredible.
Yep.
Very cool.
Being a Zonian, did they have questions for you about your old high school and haunting?
Yeah, seriously.
You know what? It was interesting because, I think, as a Zonian, we bridged the gap of sorts on the team. If you look at the way the project was delivered, Panama, the ACP hired, United States trained advisors, right? CH2M Hill. And so that was part of the team. And then you had, the ACP workforce. And I sort of was in between. I was a bridge. I knew both cultures. I worked in the United States. I had worked in Panama. And so I felt a lot like a bridge, a cultural bridge in the team. And it honestly worked very well. They had a lot of questions. And I think we learned a lot from each other. It was a special time.
That's pretty good. Ralph has a question about, the GUPC. How many different countries was that for our listeners who might not know?
So GUPC was the consortium that built the Panama Canal. There was a design-build joint venture, and so their company was Spanish, Italian, Belgian, and then the Panamanian company participated as well. But the interesting fact that people don't, you don't often hear is we actually had 83 different countries represented on the expansion. In terms of the workforce management, nearly half the countries on the globe had representatives on that project in some form or fashion. And so we'd have our progress meetings in English, but all the dredging, dredging was Belgian, and it was an interesting dynamic with so many people represented.
Wow, it's like you had the United Nations working on the canal.
Basically, yeah. It's interesting fact though, that's not out of the normal for mega projects, just because you have to draw on resources, right?
Yeah.
The team I'm on right now, sort of overseeing I-4, we have 8 team members, and all 8 people were born in 8 different countries.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I don't count as the American one.
Tell us a little bit about I-4. I think that there might be people out there who don't know what I-4 is. It's the highway that goes in between Tampa and Orlando, and probably of particular importance, Disney World.
Yeah, so we affectionately refer to it as Mickey Mouse's driveway. So the project I'm on now is it's actually 21 miles of interstate from it starts down near Universal and ends 21 miles north of Tampa. I'm sorry, north of Orlando. And so it's a $2.3 billion capital expenditure. And we're actually, if you see the clock here, this is the countdown clock for one of the delivery milestones that we have, which at the end of the year, we're going to have the general use lanes substantially complete, open to the public in both directions, with the yellow line and in the right spot and the shoulders open. So,
I was about to ask you what that interesting clock was. I thought maybe you had a date with NASA or something.
Yeah, seriously.
I put it behind me so it reminds everybody else when I'm on these Zoom meetings nowadays, which is so common.
Right?
Just to
So
spark some
that
fear
is
in the other hearts.
interesting. How do you swivel to mega projects and construction during the pandemic?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, HB.
And that's a fantastic question. Believe it or not, we were really concerned going in. Obviously, March 16th, we had the stay-at-home order here in the United States. I've been working predominantly from home. Obviously, I get out on site. But what we saw was, there were slight impacts to some vendors, but really in terms of construction, we actually advanced farther and faster than we'd anticipated for a couple of reasons. Traffic dropped to nearly half, if not less, of the pre-pandemic levels. And so DOT, the FDOT, as our partner, they saw an opportunity and said, guys, if we open up, ways for you to close the road, extended periods, can you take advantage of it? So we came up with a plan. We shut I-4 down for a weekend. I mean, and it made sense because we were able to get so much done. So, you think of pandemic and all the impacts, but there really is for construction, especially where we have to maintain traffic. That's one of the criteria. We can't limit traffic. We can't reduce the speed. But when there's such a low volume, it makes sense. It's sort of, you're ripping off the Band-Aid type question. If we can really advance much farther with just a little bit more impact, we benefited from it. So did the public because we shortened our timeline. It doesn't make sense right off the bat, but there are hidden blessings in there.
But that's pretty cool. I mean, you were totally it's super smart. You were totally making use of the fact that there was nobody outside.
Nobody was out on the roads. And so why not? Let's take advantage.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the things that I was hoping would happen here. Two was to be like, okay, everybody's staying home. Let's go fix the holes in the streets. But no, it didn't.
No.
It didn't happen. And they were still tranqui. I don't know how that worked.
They're still tranqui. And there's more holes.
I hear the tranqui is all yellow these days. The taxi drivers.
Oh, good grief. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They're on the streets. But it's funny because in front of my house, and like on the road that leads to my apartment building, there's like these massive holes. And I'm like, how did this happen? Nobody's been out. I don't know, man.
So Dan, tell us, told us about a little bit about your work on the expansion on I-4. What's another project that you worked on a large scale?
Yeah, so I've worked on the Panama Canal expansion. Then after that, I took a role as assistant construction director on the new Midtown tunnel in Virginia, between Norfolk and Portsmouth. It was a new immersed tube tunnel. We also rehabilitated. That was an interesting project because not only did we build a new tunnel, but we rehabilitated 3 aging tunnels. One of them was 60 years old, and we also built a 1-mile elevated bridge to sort of connect the entire loop. And once that one was done, that's when I got the call to come down and participate on I-4. So I've got the 3 mega projects, if you will, under my belt, but it's taken up the better part of my career. It's been exciting, to say the least. Oh, yeah. So that's during Hurricane Sandy. What you're looking at there that's the older tunnel. And as Hurricane Sandy rolled through, we actually dropped the floodgate and we were able to save the tunnel. But if you look at, I know New York, and there was other tunnels that weren't equipped with the same type of flood protection measures we had. And they spent years then after that, which was really sort of not even a wind event. It was a flood event. It was a storm surge event. So that was an interesting challenge right there. You're biting your fingernails as you watch the water rise. So those are the actual tunnel segments for the Midtown Tunnel. Now we built 11 segments, and they were actually built in a dry dock up in Baltimore, Maryland, 250 miles from the job site. And the reason was because if you look at Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia, most of the yards down there have Navy preference because it's a heavily militarized area. There's a Navy base there. And so we had to look for a dry dock that we could use for a 2-year period without interruption. And so this is the same tunnel that was used to build the sister tunnel right next to it so many years ago. And so here we are, in 2009 coming back and working on, or this was actually 2012, coming back and working at the same dry dock. So they were built as tunnel segments. Then we put a diaphragm on the end and then treated them as barges. And they were floated 250 miles down the Chesapeake Bay before they were lowered into place.
That's wild. Can I ask a question? And I know it might sound super silly, but I just need to know. So you build the actual tunnel in another location.
They're Legos.
And then you bring it in and you put it in the hole that you dug. Like you dig a big hole and then you put the
underwater.
Wow.
Yeah, so the deepest segment was actually 90 feet underwater. And so we had a special barge, a spud barge. We were able to stand it up and create a level laying bed underwater. And then the tunnel was negatively ballast, so we put concrete blocks on top of it so that it wasn't buoyant anymore. We lowered it to the bottom and then covered it with stone, and we actually had armor rock on top of that as well, so that if a ship does go down, the tunnel's protected in that location.
Wow. So then, hold on. Okay. So then you have the entrance to the tunnel.
Yeah. So you can see the submarine doors right there in that image. So that's actually a submarine door in that diaphragm. We called that a diaphragm wall.
Right.
So it's just a temporary wall we put in at each end. And then the first tunnel segment was married up with a system of sheet pile so that we could access the end of it in the dry.
Okay.
And so you access the end of it in the dry, and then you connect the next one, and you take the wall out, go through the submarine door on the next one, and continue the process. There you go. You're looking at the submarine door there in the distance.
That's pretty cool. And then once it's built, the submarine door no longer functions, or is it still there?
No, there's cars going through there now.
Oh snap! True that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mind has just been blown. I'm just like, whoa.
That's I can testify on your behalf, Joe. When I go on these things, we're walking around. We're there at the expansion, walking around, and Danny's throwing knowledge at me left and right. He's like, "This is where we do this," and I'm just like, "Holy shnikes!" Yeah, I couldn't. It's something that's hard for us to comprehend because it's just huge.
Yeah.
So HB, we'd actually talked about that, and that's one of the things. I think you asked me, how do you not get overwhelmed? And it's the building a grain of sand at a time, right? And so when you're there every single day, you sort of see it grow around you, and it's just that's what it is. It's normal. But then I always enjoyed having people come visit the site because it reminds me, what a huge undertaking you're part of when you sort of take that for granted when you're just day to day in the grind, right? This stuff is really special, and it does change the world around it. That's the neat part.
For sure.
Let's see if we can pull up a slide of the expansion because that's what's this guy? You sent me this picture. I want some backstory on this fella.
So that's one of the requirements for the expansion. We had to relocate all the wildlife, right? And so as we started clearing trees, this guy was the two-toed sloth, and they are not slow or docile. I took that picture of there was like 6 people wrestling with him trying to get him into a cage, and he wasn't having it.
Oh goodness.
It's Skip. We'll come back to that one. This is the actual ballot of the Joe found this online of the referendum.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And
that's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Here we've got some of your swag. Let's see if we. Here we go. Oh, look at that handsome fella! Look at him. This is the day that Dan took me to the expansion. I mean, you guys, the scale of this, it's hard to figure that out on this picture because he's standing next to me, and then in the background is just a whole universe of cranes and what's going to end up being the channel of the expansion. It's just mind-boggling.
That's so insane. The size of it. Like I think it's really amazing how you have like people like you, Dan, other guys that are there, guys and girls working on this, and it's just you're so small.
Yeah.
And you're working with things that are so big. And then now that's all filled in with water. How wild.
We're ants just doing our part. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's now here, tell us about this guy.
So that's the Cat 777, and those were the earth moving trucks. Oh, look, special delivery.
Nice.
That's the Cat 777, and those were the heavy earth moving trucks that we used for the bulk of the excavation. We actually hauled the sandstone in Gatun. We actually hauled the sandstone several miles along the border of the lake out to a dumping ground known as Monte Lidio. And we filled in a small little corner of the lake that was identified as minimal impact. But yeah, those are special trucks. I think right here we got a scaffold set up. They're doing some maintenance on it, and it requires temporary scaffolding just to access several of the parts. So,
well, how tall? Like, it's hard to see from this picture. So if you could tell us how tall someone would be against that front tire.
The tires are 10 feet.
Wow.
So you might come up either to the middle or the top of the rim.
So your head will top out at about the top of that rim.
Wow.
So interesting, as part of the safety measures, we had Toyota Hiluxes on the job site, and because these trucks are so big and the visibility from the cab is so bad, we had these 15-foot tall Mickey Mouse flags that we had to drive around with. Each vehicle had this big giant flag waving in the air so that these trucks could see you.
Wow. So basically, when you see these trucks, it's like, get out of the way.
Yeah. They've got the right of way.
I love this picture. This is just a row of them. Is this all the same machine, or are these different?
So we pivoted. These are actually 740s. So these are a little bit smaller. There's a mix of Volvo and Caterpillar in this picture, the Volvo A40s and the Cat 740s. These are just a little bit more versatile, a little bit more maneuverable, and they ended up being sort of the go-to for the bulk of the work.
So this is later on in the excavation time, or?
Yeah. So this is, I think we're about 3/4 of the way through excavation at this point, and I think we're expecting some visitors, so we had to show off the toys, right?
I've got a very very important question.
I think HB was headed out, so I had all the trucks staged.
Of course. I mean, come on.
Thank you. Bows, applause, appreciation. But I want to know how much you had to pay that Bien Cuidado for watching those. Let's go back a few. No, here's a good picture here. The scale of this is just monumental. I mean, we're looking down a lock chamber here, and someone would be as tall as, there's nothing to compare it to here. It's probably too small for the viewers to figure it out. Is there anything that you could help us with here, Dan?
It's the image is a little bit foggy. Yeah, it's a little blurry. Let me see if I can. I know which one you're looking at.
And just for reference, on the upper right of that photo, for anyone who can see it, it's a little small in the way our screen is set up, but on the upper right corner where you see those trees in the hill, that's where the current Aguas Claras observatory would be, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So yeah, you've got the lake at your back here, and you're looking out towards the ocean. And so I think really the takeaway is, each one of those, I think we had 26 tower cranes in this at the peak. And so each one of those tower cranes, they had a certain rhythm, and it wasn't random where they were put, and they were actually on a system of rails. And so we were able to move tower cranes up and down the chambers so that we could access each of the concrete placements. But yeah, looking at it now, you can't even make people out in it. It's such a huge undertaking.
Yeah. So one of those cranes, would that be something that we would see maybe on a skyscraper?
Yeah. So the tower crane is just a standard piece of construction equipment. You see it oftentimes deployed on top of buildings. It is standard vertical construction. So you see tower cranes all over cities. That's pretty common.
Wow. So those are the ones that you would see on a city working on skyscrapers and stuff. That's pretty wild. Yep. And there it was on the canal. How crazy. I think
here's another some heavy machinery here. That's Dan Norman right there.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here?
So that's a Hitachi, one of our production excavators. It's actually a 16 cubic meter bucket. So if you think about, a dump truck, for instance, is about 10 cubes. So a dump truck couldn't take one bucket load from this thing.
It's you can make a swimming pool out of that sucker.
Yeah. Well, it matched my vest, so I figured I get a photo up.
Yeah, good
Of
photo. Up
course.
there. All right, here's some more cranes, but I think this is a different project.
Yep. So that's this is actually the dry dock up in Baltimore, and what you're looking at in the background is a luffing crane that was. It's actually used for demolishing old vessels. So they'd use that to lift, the sections of it as they cut a ship into sections. They'd use that to lift it up and out, and then scrap it for recycling. And then on the left, what you're looking at, that's temporary formwork that we set up because we had to build a life-size model of the tunnel section before we even started work. So that's a 72-foot long replica of what the tunnel segments that we built eventually.
Incredible. I'm trying to find one, just
HB, just
yeah.
on we've got a quick shout out on Instagram from Trina. I've lost it now. It's just sending a shout out to Dan, saying you're the best engineer to ever work on the canal.
I love you, Trina.
She mentioned that her dad worked on the OG canal as well. So shout out to Trina.
Thanks for tuning in, Trina. Trina went with us on one of the site visits. That was a lot of fun to have the three of us out there together.
That's right. Trina was there. Yeah,
That when we went to see that culvert, Indiana Jones style, that was pretty cool. There is one picture that I was trying to find. I don't know if I can. Well, here's your old. There it is. Tell us about this fine fella.
Yeah, that's Juancho. First of all, you gotta name the big critters.
That is the Juancho.
That is the Juancho, and he was actually living in the expansion or the excavation when we showed up. And I mentioned we had to relocate all the wildlife. I think we ended up relocating like 36 crocodile and caiman over 6 feet. The ones that were smaller than 6 feet, we stopped counting. This guy actually was 6 meters.
Oh, so, goodness.
Yeah,
you had to do that yourself, right?
Yeah, crocodile hunter here.
I heard that if you rub its belly, it'll go to sleep. Did you do that?
You first. So HB, do you have the picture of the trap that they tried to make for this guy?
Yeah, I passed it. I didn't number these things so well, but you keep telling us about him, and I'll find the trap.
We tried for months. They're not stupid, and when you invade their environment, they try to find areas where they're going to be much more comfortable and continue to hunt. And so he actually made it about 2 kilometers from where we first saw him.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so here we actually found him bedded down. And they managed to get some lines around his snout, and then he did the roll and tied himself up for us. But he was living right there in the third cut, which is the backyard that the kids used to play in and around. It's a big guy.
Good.
You wouldn't want to stumble across him walking through the sawgrass.
Not at all. So he was there watching. How old was he? Do you know? Was there an estimate? No,
I don't know, but upwards of 50, I'd say.
Wow, he could have been there watching you guys when you guys were young, and he was like, "Oh, these guys came back again. Now they're tying me up. I don't like this." Here's
the cage. Look at this sucker. I mean, look at that's a 50-gallon drum right there on the side.
So we had chickens in there. We tried all sorts of stuff, and we'd see him circle the cage, and he wasn't having it. So yeah, we tried for, I think it was probably about 3 weeks with this bamboo contraption that the guy that was hired as part of the one of the experts, he came up with this idea, and we thought it was going to work, but ultimately brute force and very long ropes prevailed.
That is insane. So now on top of not only getting stuff built and making sure that you don't destroy precious historical artifacts, you also have to deal with insanely large animals that could eat you. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, every day at work was an adventure. I loved it.
I love it.
Wow. Did you ever come across anything cuddly, like a beautiful that like not the sloth, because we know the sloth was trying to hack
Well,
your eyes out.
I met my wife on my last project, so yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's a little easier to cuddle with than a 6-meter croc.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I think one of the we had some howler monkeys in Gatun that decided they weren't going anywhere, and they ended up being on the last stand of trees that we had, and it was, howler monkeys are pretty social creatures. They knew what we were doing, and they weren't having it. And so for several weeks, this one stand of trees right there behind the Gatun Yacht Club, there was this family of howler monkeys just telling us how what we could do to ourselves. Put it that way.
Oh god.
all day. It was,
They were making their final stand.
You sent this picture, and I think I might know what it is, but I want you to tell us here. Can you see it clearly?
Yep. So you're near the pool, looking south towards the lake, and the road to the yacht club is sort of off the right of the screen. And the reason I took this picture is, everybody remembers Gatun as such a green, vibrant landscape. And one of the memories that sticks out for me is, as we started construction, was once we started cutting the trees down, I didn't miss the trees so much, I missed the shade. And what you see here is a dusty, barren landscape. Once we took all the mahogany and avocado and fruit, all those trees down, how quickly it just converted into this desert sort of feel. And it struck me. And so you see a couple of the remaining houses there. And this photo sort of captivated me when I took it. What's the lore act, right? Once the trees are gone.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's the excavation. Can you tell us some more about this?
So, that's a cool picture. So I mentioned the United States effort in the late 30s. They dug out a large portion of this, and then it was sort of abandoned, and they set up a system of overflow piping so that if it did flood, it overflowed out into the ocean. And so when we got there, what you're looking at is really just this pristine, beautiful body of water, unpolluted, full of fish. And so we'd go down there and look at it, and it was just awe-inspiring. You look at this picture, and that was a hole that was dug 70 years ago in the tropics and then just left. And that's what it became, was just amazing environment and ecosystem. Just really a sight to behold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very beautiful for sure.
Yep.
HB, guys, we've got some more comments here from Trina on Instagram. She says, HB, check your WhatsApp. She sent you some pictures.
Oh, nice.
Let me see if I can download these real quick. You guys converse amongst yourselves so I can try and integrate these. These are exceptional pictures. I'm taking a look at it now.
I got a drippy.
That is so insane. I can't believe it. I'm still trying to come to terms with the wild animals that you were encountering, man. And that alligator was just. What did you end up doing with it? Did you guys transfer it to another area near the canal?
Yeah. So all the surfers will be very, very happy to know that we put it out near V-Land. I told Daniel Hanna that. I said, hey, Daniel, next time you go surfing at the mouth of the Chagres, just keep in mind I put around 46-foot long saltwater crocodiles there.
Wow, 40, man, that's crazy. And did you guys have these guys already mapped out, or did you just kind of meet them on a day-by-day situation?
They had done a wildlife survey, so we had an idea.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane. What about the snake situation? I hate snakes, man, and I can only imagine there must have been a lot of snakes over there.
Honestly, growing up, we had pet snakes. HB, you remember where my house was in Gatun, and that road down to the yacht club, there was sugarcane. There was a sugarcane field, and that's where the snakes live. And so we'd go walking through the sugarcane and catch boas and keep them as pets. So there was no shortage of snakes.
Wow.
In Gatun, that's for sure.
That is insane. That is insane. I can't.
Yeah.
What's going on? We have a special guest voice coming.
Max, come here and say hi. So this is my son Max. Say hi, Max.
Hey, Max.
Max.
Thanks for coming on the show. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Engineer. You want to work in construction? You want to build stuff? We'll figure it out.
Astronaut.
Yeah. Do anything you want, bud. Sky's the limit.
Here's I managed to see if I can do this without. Here we go. Let's see.
If anyone can do it, it's you, my friend.
Well, there's more pictures of me, so I didn't do it properly. The theater actor always showing pictures of himself. It's not integrated in new ones. All right, you guys keep talking. I'm going to see if I can get those nice pictures in here.
Oh, goodness. And how long was it then? How long was the whole process that you were here from when you moved to the States? You came to Panama, you started working on the project. How long was the process that you were here for?
So I was actually on the project for just a little bit over 3 years.
Okay.
And, yeah. So came down. My first day of work was August 17th, 2009, and my last day working for ACP was I think August 21st, 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were there ever any moments, because not just thinking about all the rain that we've been having these past couple of days, were there ever any moments where you guys were just like, oh my God, there's going to be a major crisis. Either there's too much water, we can't handle it. There's too little water, we can't handle it. Did anything like that ever happen where you guys had to go into like crisis mode?
Yeah. So I don't know if you recall, in 2010, I think it was December 10th, we had a 500-year storm.
Mm-hmm.
I actually ended up living on the project site for I think 3 or 4 days because you couldn't get in and out of Gatun. Everything was flooded. And that was one of those, they had all the gates on the dam open. The lake was still rising, and there was everybody was crossing their fingers hoping the rain would stop. But we were really early in excavation at the time, and it really caught the contractor by surprise just how much rain could come down in Panama in such a short period.
Yeah.
You don't fully appreciate the power of Mother Nature until it's just it's whitewater rapids where it used to just be a dry hole, right?
Yeah. No, it's pretty insane. And I think particularly here, we're always kind of second guessing the amount of rain we can get. I mean, I think we know it, having lived here, grown up here, that it rains a lot. But then, you're always kind of like, man, why did the streets get so flooded today? Or why am I stuck living on the site for 4 days? Because it rains a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
historically speaking, today, back in 1906 was when Theodore Roosevelt visited the canal construction, and he announced to the public that he had faced 2 days of interminable back-to-back rainstorms. He couldn't see the sky. Everything was flooded, and he loved it, and he wouldn't have had it any other way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
So here's the pictures that Trina was talking about. One of our good friends, Trina Clark, she sent me some pictures that I was able to integrate here. It's probably hard to see on the small screen, but there's start to finish. The first time we went out, you'll see Trina and I, Danny's taking the picture in front of the first excavations. And then next to it's the finish where Trina and Dan are standing next to the finished product when they're about to open that last dam.
I love it.
Lots of good pictures in here. Here's Mama and Papa Clark on the observatory checking out the excavations. And then, I think this is right at the beginning. I mean, you guys have just started breaking dirt. I mean, you talked about site project manager where you're laying out flags and whatnot. How long were you doing that before you got to the point in this picture?
Which, hold on, the picture's a little lagged.
Okay.
Yeah, so I joined August 2009, and I want to say we started moving dirt. This is about 9 months later. We started clearing trees about 4 months in, and then started excavating about 6 months in. So,
Very cool. Let's see. Here's another view of that. Just the excavations with the wide road so that those giant trucks could get through there.
Yeah. Guys, while we're looking at the pictures, I have a couple more comments from Trina over here on Instagram. First, she says hi to Max, so massive shout outs to Max. She wants to know, Danny, did you ever take any pictures? She says, Danny, did you take pictures every day for the 3 years on the job for documenting purposes for the ACP archives?
No comment.
No comment. Sorry, Trina, that is confidential.
No comment.
Big hard drive.
Yeah, of confidential information.
Yeah, it's 2 hard drives actually.
Wow.
Wow, that must be so cool.
Visiting with Kelly, and then
Trina and I would sit back and share photos. So I definitely have a huge repository of images. One of these days, I'm gonna have to sort through them.
I tell you, if you had just like a book of images, that would be pretty cool. I'd buy it. I'll buy it from you, Danny, if you publish it. And we can promote it here on Rapping with Rapscallions. Coming soon.
There you go.
December 2022.
We're entering new markets.
That's right.
what is it? The Rapping with Rapscallions coffee book, excavation of the canal, coffee
That's
book
right.
table, coffee table book.
Coffee table book. Everyone needs one of those.
Yeah.
For sure.
So have we missed any talking points? Let's I have kind of an off the wall question for you, Dan. Is, from your perspective, working on these different types of mega projects, give us your modern take on something like the pyramids of Egypt.
Well, I think engineering nowadays, we've really become much farther advanced in terms of like material engineering. And so if you look at the way we build jobs today, it really is we're driving costs down through reducing the use of materials. You take the original Panama Canal, for instance, versus the new Panama Canal, the expansion. And so the original was a monolithic structure, vast amounts of concrete, no reinforcement, no steel. Whereas the newer expansion locks, it was engineered to reduce the requirement for all the material, thereby saving vast amounts of money. So I think in looking at how they did the pyramids, for instance, that structure was built to last eons, right? We don't build things to last eons. We build things to last 100 years. The Panama Canal, the requirement for the design was 120-year design life. And same thing goes for the tunnel that I worked on. We had a 120-year design life. We had to be able to demonstrate that the concrete would survive for 120 years without allowing chloride ions to reach the rebar and cause spalling. So what they did with not only the labor that was required, but also the material selection and the overall vision, that's just a world of its own. We can't even fathom engineering things like that today because the cost would be astronomical.
Wow.
Could we build one? Sure, but it would be hollow and it would have concrete to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we would do it today.
Incredible.
Just looking at the ability to manipulate blocks that size and move them the distances they did. Even today, that would be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
You saw the canal expansion with 26 tower cranes and these huge trucks. And that was for a project that doesn't even compare in scale to the pyramid. I mean, it's incredible. One of the marvels for sure.
Yeah.
So
I do like the idea of a pyramid though. It'd be a sweet house.
For sure. And
Nice.
Speaking of houses,
yeah.
so for a regular person who doesn't know anything about engineering, could you maybe explain to us what the difference would be between building a house and a mega project? Because I'm sure if I were to tell you, like, Danny, can you build a house? You'd probably be like, sure, man. And then boom, snap your fingers and there's a house. Just in comparison when it comes to a mega project, I guess, right? What is the difference? And can you explain it to us, like the different processes that take place, different procedures, etc.?
Oh yeah. Well, I think construction's construction. I guess would be the first comment that I would make.
Yeah.
It all involves hammers and nails and shovels and dirt. You look at the construction methods in Panama and it's concrete. And so there's a lot of similarities in the construction that you do in Panama, because it is, a lot of cast in place concrete. Then you come to the United States, and we build houses here in the United States out of wood timber framing. And so you can't really draw a parallel in terms of, a mega project when we're talking about wood timber framing, because you're building temporary structures. These aren't meant to last 150 years. But ultimately the principles are all the same. You still have the engineering that goes into it. You have the specifications that you have to follow, it all boils down to mathematics and engineering in terms of designing the structure and then executing. So, there's a lot of similarities. Do I find building construction interesting? Absolutely. Would I want to do it? Probably not.
No.
Once you get a taste for the big toys, it's tough to go back.
Yeah. And so what's the average lifespan of a house, I guess? Particularly, like, say if you're comparing one to one in the US and one in Panama.
Yeah, so if you look at the US market, typically you're looking at about a 30-year renewal. And when I say renewal, it means you're going to have some sort of major rehab. So houses that are built in the 70s and 80s, they should have already gone through that first phase renewal, right? To get modernized. That's when your wife gets the new kitchen she's always been dreaming of. But in Panama, honestly, the construction methods that they use there, the concrete that they build the houses, that period is drawn out quite a bit further.
Right. So is it true? And I'll just ask because you're here and you're an engineer, so you must know. People always say, "Oh man, they don't make things the way they used to."
They don't.
They don't. Right? No.
They don't.
They don't.
My son just came in and whispered in my ear, and he said, "Machu Picchu." And so in 2016, I took the wife and I took a trip to Machu Picchu, and that was one of those how did they do it experiences. You're standing on top of a mountain, surrounded by all this masonry work, and you can't even fathom it. And I've seen this stuff firsthand nowadays using modern toys and modern tools and modern technology. And then you visit a place like Machu Picchu, and you're like, yeah, we don't build like that anymore.
So you as an engineer that handles mega projects, even when you go to Machu Picchu, you're like,
wow,
yeah.
How in the heck did they do this?
There was when for the people who haven't been to Machu Picchu, you go there and you see these giant stones, and they fit together almost perfectly.
You can't put a piece of paper between them.
Yeah. And there was another spot, I think, behind Machu Picchu. There was an old stone bridge, and you go and you look.
Sun gate.
It's just, it's this wide. It's probably as wide as your shoulders, and it goes down into the clouds. You can't see the bottom of it. So how did they do that?
Right.
I was looking to see if I have got photos of Machu Picchu there somewhere. I'll be distracted if I'm hunting for photos, but.
So there's some parallels that between two of your projects, and between the tunnel project and the expansion project, and that's water. How did you face the different challenges? I think there's a huge difference there, but there might be some similarities that you'll be able to explain to us.
Yeah, it was the tunnel. The tunnel, you had to keep the water out, and the canal, you had to keep the water in. The only difference. But no, that honestly, both of them had the potential to be in saltwater environments. And interestingly, the design requirement, we actually had 120-year design life on both of those jobs, and that's measured through a testing method from ASTM 1202. But it's the challenge is really how do you with concrete with steel reinforcement in it, how do you protect the steel reinforcement? That's the biggest challenge. And so if you look at I don't know if I have any handy. I've got cores from the original locks sitting here somewhere. But you look at the size of the aggregate that they used and the type of mix that they used on the old construction, and it was just massive pieces of aggregate and concrete that cured over a long period, same as the Hoover Dam. On the newer tunnels or on the newer construction, we actually had cooling systems, and we cooled the concrete as it was curing. And then we also had reinforcing, which meant we needed less concrete. But then the key is keeping the chloride ions away from it. So that was the biggest challenge for both of those jobs, and very, very similar in terms of the approach. Is just keeping salt water away from the steel. HB, you've seen all the beach houses, right? With saltwater spray, and it doesn't take long for that to work its magic.
Sure. Just to expound on what you're saying there, Dan, just for the layman's like me out there, the original canal, they weren't really sure how long the wear and tear would be on the concrete, so they poured like 12 feet wide thick walls just in case something would happen that they couldn't calculate for. So concrete was it's one of those lost materials. I think in ancient Rome they had something similar, and then fast forward 1,900 years, and we're building a canal in Panama, and they just don't know how it's going to work out. So they let's just make it thicker. Yep. And so I think the approach with what he's saying, the cores, they drilled out a piece of that concrete and took a look at it and see what happened to it over the past 100 years, so that they could take that into account when they're building the new set of locks in the expansion.
Sorry, I took the opportunity to split.
Yeah,
these guys.
There you go.
Very cool.
Okay, so the aggregator is the rocks that they add into the concrete mix to give it some more strength.
Yeah. So there's come on, camera. There you go.
There we go.
So these were actually taken from Miraflores locks back when my dad was working, and that was the study that they were doing was how's the concrete performing 100 years later, right?
Wow.
And what they found was the concrete on the original locks is way better condition than anybody had anticipated 100 years later.
Well, actually, on that, Dan, there's a question from Trina. She says here on the Instagram, she says, where was the cement from the original canal? Where did they obtain it from?
That's
all over the world.
All over the world.
Honestly, I think they did barge it in from all over the world.
Yeah.
It was the demand for it occupied. I think it was 80% of all the cement factories in the world.
Even to this day, we still a large part of continental the United States. We rely on Mexico for a large part of our cementitious materials because they've got the quarries and the mines that contribute. Cemex. You've heard of the company called Cemex, Cemento Mexico.
Yeah.
They're big in Panama.
Yeah,
for sure, they are really big. Trina says here, Portland cement.
Portland cement is the Northwest. Those are the Northwest quarries. Now that's been adopted as a popular term for the type of cement.
How interesting.
Doesn't mean just because they call it Portland cement doesn't mean it came from Portland nowadays.
So it's like a mix, a blend, a nice blend of cements.
But Trina's right. Portland cement is
a type that they used. And we got a lot of comments on Facebook. Sue Norman, Mama Norman's is, I love that Maxwell popped in for a hello. We gotta see if we get him into the engineering field, right?
Do what I can.
Jill Paulson Berger says Gatun rocks.
Jill.
Kari Seardahl says, how many Notre Dame football helmets were painted for him to be able to do this? Is that an inside joke there?
This is painted with the Notre Dame football gold right there.
There you go. And Amanda Gabrielson says, this is so cool. Thank you. Make sure you tune in next week, 3 p.m.
Amanda, hope you're doing well. Hang in there.
Yeah.
And hey, Jill, really enjoyed taking you on visits too. You and Skip, I know you got a couple of trips out there as well. That was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Man, now I'm wishing I could have gone on these trips, man. They sound epic. I'm going to see who I can talk to take me on a trip.
We'll drain the canal so that you can go check it out.
Please. Yeah. And I want the cars lined up as well outside for my arrival.
We'll see what we can do.
So now that we've talked about some of the projects you worked on, this is just this one of the things that I'm having a hard time transmitting is just how amazing it is and how overwhelming it is to be on something that's this big. So I think, Joe, you had a question about that. Do you ever feel overwhelmed, and how do you get over it?
I think you had mentioned it earlier on today when you were talking, and you mentioned something about kind of just taking it step by step. But at any moment, do you ever feel, because like right now, I'm looking at your clock and I'm feeling anxious, man, because I'm just like, man, we have 46 days to submit something. I don't know what it is, but we got to do it in 46 days. So do you ever feel like, man, like, do you ever find yourself saying like, all right, Dan, cool your jets. We can do it, you know?
Yeah, honestly, all the time. I mean, everybody gets stressed out, right? I think the key is taking that pause, making sure that you have yourself a nice rum, and focusing on what's important, right? So prioritize, and if they say don't push off till tomorrow what you can do today. Make sure you chip away at it, and with these big jobs, that's the biggest thing. I think we talked about Teddy Roosevelt when he said in any given situation you have three options. You can do the right thing, which is the best thing. You can do the wrong thing, which is all right, or you can do nothing, which is unacceptable.
Yeah.
John Stevens carried that same notion when he came to Panama as the railroad engineer. He said, "I'll fire you for doing nothing, but I won't fire you for doing something, even if it's the wrong thing."
Right.
And that's the thing to keep in mind. Is you just got to prioritize, try to find out what's important, and attack the things on your list. Do I get looking at this clock? Do I get do I get stressed out? Absolutely. I got 46 days to deliver something. I don't know what it is.
We'll talk with Mickey. We'll talk with Mickey Mouse.
Seriously,
smooth everything over.
You gotta calm down, Mickey. It's gonna be okay.
But no, it's something that we tell the whole team. You play your part, and the rest is noise. So.
And I guess that's pretty interesting because I do imagine the team is full of it must be a lot of people working on the Mickey Mouse Expressway. Is it the Expressway?
No, it's the I-4.
So I-4.
Yeah, project called I-4 Ultimate. We've got about 1,500 craftsmen out in the field, craftsmen and craftswomen, and then that's supported then by a team of 200 engineers if you include FDOT's team, my team, and the contractor's design team. So. There's nearly 2,000 people involved, right?
Yeah. So everyone has to be kind of on board, on track, believing that, hey, we're going to get this done and we're going to maintain a certain standard of work. And that's pretty remarkable to keep 2,000 people just, in it to win it,
Yep. It takes a lot of attitude adjustments.
Yeah, and flexibility as well.
We've got another comment from the crowd today. It's from Ralph Furlong. Danny, what are your thoughts about Panama thinking to do a tunnel under the canal for the metro?
No. Honestly, if you look at the third bridge project, the Panama Canal Commission did a study back, I think, in the 60s about a tunnel right there under La Boca connecting over to the West Bank. I just don't think in that environment with as much rain as you have, tunnels are challenging for maintenance reasons. I just rehabbed 3 tunnels in Virginia, which is a much less call it drastic environment.
Yeah.
Well, the traffic count was really, really high, 200,000 vehicles a day, but just in terms of the climate and the environment, in terms of rain, I really think a tunnel of that scale in Panama, I don't know that we're ready for it.
Now, that makes me think of a lot of things because, you're bringing post-Panamax ships or neo-Panamax ships in. Do they actually fit under the bridge at high tide, under the Thatcher Bridge of the Americas?
No, they've got our good friend Doug will tell you they actually have blackout for certain tides. They can't bring them in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know that they did a lot of excavation to accommodate those neo-Panamax ships in reference to the old bridge.
You can't change sea level.
Right. You can't change sea level.
True.
I think that's what De Lesseps was trying to do, right?
Flow downhill.
Yeah, right.
He's
With a
like, "Don't worry,
giant
guys,
corridor,
I got this."
the Continental Divide in between. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Hey, is it easier? And now just talking about like tunnels and underwater tunnels and all that stuff. Is it easier to build a new one or rehabilitate an old one?
Depends. So, with building a new one nowadays, all the right of way, I'd say, is one of the bigger challenges, followed by the environmental impacts. So where you have an existing tunnel, you've already gone through the environmental issues, you've already dealt with the right of way problems, and so if there's a financial argument to be made that we can make this tunnel, bring this tunnel to a close enough semblance of current day standards. Particularly with regards to fire life safety. Fire life safety is the biggest challenge with rehabilitating tunnels. Can you get the ventilation systems put in to meet standard? Driver notification systems. Water. Is there a deluge system that you can retrofit? So I would say by and large, rehab is going to be the answer in most cases for the tunnels that we have in the United States. But there certainly are arguments where the tunnel just doesn't have capacity, and then that would trigger you over to, well, we need a new one.
Right. Okay. And then what happens with like the old? What happens with the old tunnels? Do you just close them off? Do they get destroyed? Or
No. It's so the tunnels that I worked on in Virginia, one of them was a bidirectional tunnel, and when we built the parallel tunnel next to it, then we repurposed that tunnel just for eastbound traffic. And
right.
So you'll see that a lot where they've got, for instance, a Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnels projects both underway there in Virginia, and they're building new tubes next to existing ones. And what that means is they'll reconfigure traffic to make the best use of the real estate that they have for the highway lanes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it's always about making use of the assets that you already have in place when you build the new ones.
Yeah.
That's very smart.
I mean, you look at some of the tunnels in New York, and they're approaching 100 years, right? So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So are there any mega projects on the horizon that you can tell us about?
Which store do you want?
All of them. All of them.
No, yeah, interesting. It's in my work, I've been fortunate to only move for 3 projects. I mean, a lot of folks in this line of work tend to move a lot more often, so I've been blessed there. But I've always got my eyes looking at what the next opportunity is, right? And so the company I'm with now is a fully international company, and we are looking at what the next job might be. So it does appear there's some jobs. Atlanta's undergoing some major highway expansion efforts, and then same with DC. So those are 2 opportunities that are they're always a stretch target, but you never know. You might land one of those projects, and who knows.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, someone asked you about Notre Dame and painting helmets. I want to go back to your college days. When you were at Notre Dame, I mean, you chose to be an engineer, but sorry, what was that?
You want to go back to my college days? I said, so do I.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. So did you at any point during your studies ever fathom that you might fall into this career path?
No, I didn't actually. When you're in college, you're in a very academic environment, right? And especially at Notre Dame, they did have a pretty good program where they gave you real world experience. But I did not envision myself sort of being boots on the ground, involved in heavy civil construction. No, not at all. I think what it did give me, Notre Dame's education gave me sort of that rounded outlook, very, very broad, covered all sort of topics. And so then when I did find myself sort of looking at a pivot in my career, it came naturally because I did have that background. It was, just a good solid foundation, but no, certainly I didn't think I'd be working on mega projects when I was studying at Notre Dame.
So So you probably thought you were going to be writing a desk the whole time, or drawing, or something, or.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a design engineer, honestly, and very, very quickly into my design career, I realized that I liked dirt under my fingernails. I didn't like writing reports. I didn't like. I mean, I can write them. I'm good at it, but it wasn't what I found drove me. HB, you've been on site with me, and you see what what gets you excited is actually seeing the work, watching the plans take shape, not developing the plan. Like, I mean, I can put together a plan on how to do it, but I'd rather execute. That's where I find today the most rewarding, for sure.
So, I mean, on terms of scale, what has each one been bigger than the last, or are they kind of on the same level?
Obviously, working on the Panama Canal expansion was a once in a lifetime. I don't know that I'll ever get an opportunity that rewarding, that challenging again. That I was on the Atlantic site, which was the Atlantic and Pacific locks expansion was 3.2 billion or 3.3 billion. My next job was the Midtown tunnel, which was 1.5 billion, and then now I'm on the I-4 project, which is 2.3 billion. So, I think the thing to keep in mind is we're spending, in each case, we're spending about $1 million a day. That's the number. That's the number that I always resort back to is, watching $1 million a day worth of progress for the last decade has been.
That's an expensive piece of sand.
It is indeed.
So even the numbers, as far as monetary wise, are unfathomable for me. $1 million a day is just for $9 billion for a project. It's incredible.
Yeah. Very
so
true,
are there any building materials on the horizon that excite you? I mean, we talked about the old canal using 12-foot wide pieces of Portland cement, and then we're going to reinforce cement with different aggregates. What lies in the future as far as mega projects?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, even not even talking mega projects, I think one of the things I'm really interested in is self-healing, what they call self-healing concrete, where they impregnate the concrete with bacteria that actually, they digest limestone and cause the same hydrolytic reaction that you have during concrete curing. So if you have a concrete crack, these little bugs, moisture gets to them, these little bugs come to life, and they poop out concrete and seal it.
That is insane.
So I mean, it sounds novel, but there's lots of tests underway right now, and I think that's probably going to see something that we'll see hitting mainstream construction soon. Wow. Self-healing concrete is what I call it. That's I'm really interested to see that hit the market.
That is wild. So your house will be alive.
Well, not alive till water gets to the bugs.
Water gets to the bugs. So you'd be like, oh, somebody just blew a hole in my wall. Don't worry, you take your hose out, you spray
it. You have your little spray. You're like,
yeah.
So, are there any other exciting aggregates?
Ponle Vix.
Bay rum. I love it. Are there any other exciting aggregates on the future? I mean, I think they're adding shredded tires to recycle them, and that helps with the poured concrete or something like that. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but
no. So I think the polyethylene fiber is another one where you put small little threads in your concrete mix. That's actually really interesting. But concrete, that material has been around for thousands of years. What we're doing nowadays is just trying to figure out how the ancient Greeks built their docks, because there's underwater structures thousands and thousands of years old in a seawater environment that are still there, and we can't figure it out, right? Yeah. So everything we're doing today is just we're trying to uncover that lost knowledge, and we've made huge improvements, but a lot of it's driven by cost.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's totally understandable, I guess, because people don't want to spend that much money either, right? So you kind of want to make it quick, efficient, and at a low cost. And like you said, I mean, I'm pretty surprised about the lifespan of things as well. because they're not, you know, the lifespan of things that we build nowadays. We're not necessarily looking for them to last a lifetime. Which I don't know. Is that good? Is that bad?
Well, it's the why build a Swiss watch when you can build a sundial, right?
Yeah. So I guess it kind of keeps you thinking, like, yeah, we'll make something that lasts 120 years, and then we'll let whoever has to sort it out in 120 years time deal with it, and hopefully you'll have the bacteria that lives in the concrete to fix itself if something happens.
So that's an interesting maintenance crew, right? Just a guy with a squirt gun and a squeegee. I like it.
That is really insane.
This my mind is completely blown. You know, I think you're out of our league as far as what we can fathom on mega projects. Are there any current projects out there that blow your mind?
Man, you know, I look at like the International Space Station, right? I think today we have the next phase of manned flight from the United States. That is mind-boggling, right? You know, there's a lot of stuff going on that, you know, if you just look at it and try to soak it in, and how did we even get there? Who came up with this idea? Yeah, there's a lot of jobs out there that will, you know, I'm sure the guys that are working on it, the guys that are at the launch pad, you know, Wayne Watkins, our good friend, he was involved in the NASA program, for the shuttle program, for years and years. I'm sure it blows their minds even when they're looking at it. So, yeah, engineering's awesome. Engineering's awesome, and you know, it creates opportunities. You know, we met my son earlier. For sure, going to try to get him involved, so he can blow everybody's mind years down the road, right?
Absolutely.
So on that, and engineering, so I'm seeing all these cool things that you do, and one of the things that came to my mind right now is mathematics. How much math do you do on a daily basis? And if you're not good at math, should you consider a career in engineering?
No.
Is there some sort of
honestly, on a daily basis now, I'd say my math now is vastly reduced, having made it sort of in the progression of my career.
Right.
But I still need to be able to understand when to call bullshit, and I think that's the skill that going, you know, they teach you the theory. You know, HB, you and I had was algebra with in high school in
Joe Brown.
With Joe Brown. We had algebra together.
Yeah.
You know, how often do you sit down and really write out algebra equations? You don't, because you know the theory. And I think that's the key is you know, you learn the theory, and then you learn how to apply it. You don't necessarily, I don't do differential calculus anymore, but I understand the premise, right?
Right.
So the exposure to it expands your mind to be able to think.
In that fashion, yeah. And so, you know, on a daily basis, do I use my differential equations? Do I use my advanced mathematics? No, but I can, when someone's presenting a design solution to me, I can look at it and I can ask some educated questions. That's really, you know, in engineering, you have the specialists, who somebody knows more and more about less and less until they know absolutely everything about absolutely nothing. Right. And then you have the generalists who are the guys that sort of bring all the pieces together.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I think that goes across the board, right? You have specialists in things, and then you have the people who are at 10,000 feet trying to keep all the cats herded in one place.
Yeah.
We have another audience comment, Michelet Wallen. That's so interesting. I never knew that Dan Norman, such a smart, amazing guy. Well, I agree with that statement.
Hey, that's our good friend Chevy. She just got married. Congratulations, Chevy.
Congrats.
Shout out.
I got to make sure I'm up to. There's been a lot of comments. I got to make sure I give all the proper shout outs.
Well, Trina, I think Trina has left, but she wanted to know if you could help HB and her construct a perfect rum and cocoli, and what's the secret to your famous rum cake? So you also make a mean rum cake from the looks of it.
So
yeah.
This is a good story. Do you want to do the lead in for the famous rum and cake?
Rum and cake. So it was Norman's birthday. We were partying, and it occurred to us, like, holy cow, we haven't gotten a cake. So someone ran to the store and bought a generic pound cake.
Pound cake.
Yeah, and we brought it. We sang happy birthday, and we were gonna eat it. And then Danny, I'll let you finish the rest.
Yeah,
of the
and they stuck a candle on the top of it, and we're all right. We got blow out the candle and then slice off a piece of this pound cake, and I went, wait a minute, abuelo.
Rum cake. Rum and cake.
It's the famous Norman rum and cake for your birthday.
Rum and cake.
That was an excellent engineering.
It's actually very, very good.
It was really good.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. So which class in Notre Dame did you take to figure that recipe out?
Seriously.
Mixology. I don't believe it was an official offering, though.
Okay. It was extracurricular.
Yeah. We can go.
So do you have any recipes for the perfect rum and coke besides yes?
I like the rum and coca-lee. That's a nice moniker there. We got to come up with something special.
Yeah.
Trina, HB and I will put many hours of research into this project.
We did a rum show, so it's good to have a fellow rum lover.
Seriously,
yeah. Rum lover on. A rum scallion.
I'm actually drinking
rum scallion.
I'm drinking Brugal at the moment, which is Dominican because my abuelo ran out.
I was drinking some Siete Año Abuelo. Joe just added to his stash yesterday, I believe.
Oh yeah, but today I'm drinking a Siete Años. But yesterday I added a nice Santa Teresa that my dad had tucked away for like the past 12 years. And he said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna drink it. You can have it." I was like, "Okay, great, thanks."
Don't twist my arm.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously.
It's like, when's the next? We have to have a meeting stat.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately. Figure out the future of this show.
No doubt. I hear you, man.
So, is there any talking points you think that we glided over that you'd like to include?
No, this has been fantastic. Just shooting the breeze with you guys has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think, Danny? Sorry, now since you're here, and I think there's always been a rumor over the past few years that we're gonna get like a train set up that's gonna connect all of Panama's provinces. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Is there any truth to that? Do you think that's possible?
There is a little bit of truth to it, I think, but it's part of the what I've heard anyways. The rumors I've heard is that it's a sort of a Chinese investment that's been tabled a couple times, and it comes with some strings. So right. Panama should think long and hard about that type of investment.
Yeah, because I remember when I was younger living in Chiriquí, and I would think like, man, it would be so crazy if there was a train. Yeah. To have a train that would connect all of the provinces. Could you imagine? It'd be such a nice ride too.
It'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I was like, whoa, that'd be insane if it does happen. But
I'll be happy if they get as far as Rio Hato, and then
seriously.
Can stop there.
That would be
it is really interesting. Cool. I think the original plans when the United States signed the treaty, the Hay-Bonavista Treaty with Panama, there was a certain amount of money that exchanged hands, and Panama's initial idea for what to do with that money was to create a train system. Mm-hmm. I think we can debate what the U.S. actually did to them after that on another show. It was like, no, you can't use it for that. We've put it in a savings account for you.
Yeah. Because no, man, trains are amazing. Like, I can't believe, like, just hearing you guys mentioning earlier when you were saying how, your mom would put you on a train and be like, yeah, go play with your buddies over there in Gamboa or something. That's super crazy. But then I'm thinking that's not the train that we all know today that goes to Colón, right? Because that's a totally different. Is it the same tracks, or was it a train that was in a different location?
Same alignment. Same
alignment. Yeah. It would just make different stops.
Yep.
They brought down the machine to make a single track, so it's one continuous track,
right?
Which is pretty cool. We should have Tommy on the show, by the way.
No, because I love the train. I wish there were more trains here, man. Whenever I get a chance to take trains.
I think when I rode the train in the early '80s, I think it was 50 cents each way.
Really?
And you can get off. Paraíso, Pedro Miguel, Gamboa, Gatun.
Wow, that's super cheap. 50 cents. I think now I forgot how much it costs, but it's not 50 cents.
It was like $20 now, isn't it?
No, it's pretty expensive.
It's a nice journey though, if you can
I
make it.
actually rode the train a couple times when I was working for the Canal.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, they have that wagon with the windows and stuff, and you can look out and you go past it, and I said you can see the inmates playing basketball and doing stuff over there. At least I thought that was cool.
You wave at your friends when you go by?
Of course. It's the only way I can see them.
Audience participation here. Reynaldo Royo says Reina worked for Mr. Norman back in high school for summer program, and she had some amazing stories of going all over the locks. Say hello from the Royo twins.
Beautiful, yeah. My dad. I remember Reina working for my dad. That was a lot of fun. That's actually, I think I met her before then, but that's when I got to know her. She was close to my brother's age. But yeah, hey, the Royo twins. Howdy.
Yeah. And Sue Norman says, love your live cast. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. We had the right guest on today, I think.
Seriously.
Ralph's got some engineering questions. Going back to the Metro project, the viability study is ongoing and the Canal Authority has concluded that the plan would be a bridge over the canal for vehicles and a tunnel metro under the canal. It's the plan and signed contract with Japan and South Korea. Interesting.
Wow. Interesting. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Tune into the Rapscallions. You get all the scoop.
Right?
Seriously, the inside scoop on the scoops. That's crazy.
And self-healing bacterial cement.
Seriously, man, we need to invest in that, man.
Yeah.
Tell me who's making it, and I will buy stock right away. That's where we're gonna get benefaction. HB.
That's it. Maybe we'll get some sponsor money to help out with this show.
No, I heard that there was going to be, I think, well, like you said, right? Some stuff was going to happen in La Boca, but they haven't started construction over the years. So I don't know where that happened. Like for the tunnel or for the second bridge or for the third. I don't really know. I'm just talking nonsense now.
Oh, here's another question. Dan Norman, what are your thoughts about the expansion of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel in Virginia?
I think it's overdue. Anybody who's lived there knows that that's a bottleneck. And so the company that got the project, they're actually doing a directional drill, which is it's a really exciting project. And the fact that they're going to add two parallel tubes, it's going to be a huge relief to traffic in the area. I lived about 3 miles from the tunnel, and I remember we would never cross the tunnel just because you could get stuck in traffic and it would ruin your day. So I think that project's long overdue. It's going to be exciting when it's done.
What is this? What do you call it? A parallel drill? What is that all about?
No, it's a directional. So they have a tunnel boring machine similar to what they did in Panama with the Metro.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the reason I point that out is because the other tunnels that have been built there in Virginia are similar to the method that we used on our tunnel, which is where you build the segments and then lower them. These newer tunnels, they're actually boring the tunnel out underground and building it in place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever driven one of those things?
There's not much driving. It moves about.
Oh, really? So in my mind, it's like a video game. You're like,
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, honking the horn at your friends.
Yeah, man.
Throwing banana peels.
Mario Kart style. I like it.
Oh, hey, so here's another question. Based on all the movies that I've seen, whenever a disaster happens, people hide in a tunnel. If a disaster happens,
no,
I should not hide in a tunnel. Okay. That's where everyone hides there, and then Sylvester Stallone shows up and saves you.
Yeah,
and
it's
the zombies come.
Well, you saw the picture that HB showed early on of Hurricane Sandy, and that tunnel almost flooding out.
Oh, you're right. They don't do that in the movies, though.
No. In the movies, it's always the aliens from above. Yeah,
that's right.
But
okay, so I'll take that off my list.
They got you captured in a tube, so they just plug both ends.
Very that begs the question: what should we do using your mega project engineering expertise? Just wave goodbye, Nanu.
Figure
For them to beam you up.
But find a good bottle of rum and the best.
Rum and cake.
Rum and cake. I'm gonna have to put that in my emergency supply stock, just for when something bad happens, man.
Yeah. Keep that canteen with me.
Oh,
I think I'm up to
grief,
date
man.
on the comments.
Man, so now I know I can't hide in a tunnel. That's what I was gonna do if something bad happened. But
So
nope.
HB and his wife, when I left Panama, they gave me a really neat present. And I don't know, HB, if you remember the photo album that Karina put together. So
I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything for the 6 months of parties we had when you were leaving. There was a going away party every
6 months of
freaking day.
parties.
Yeah, we had we had to make sure we had all our bases covered.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, makes sense. There
There was
It's
a
good project
party
management.
in the beach. There was a party in Cologne. Oh my goodness, my
And so
liver's still pumping.
So we barbecued every Sunday. It didn't matter if it was raining. It didn't matter. We barbecued every single Sunday for like 2 years. And so they gave me a photo album of pictures from every single barbecue. It was like,
Wow.
yeah. And it's just pictures of food on the grill. It's not pictures of anybody else.
That was the.
I grabbed it, but yeah.
Oh
I'd
my
forgotten
god.
about that.
What's that?
I'd forgotten about that. That's hilarious.
I got it.
Yeah, we partied. You know, Joe, you would have enjoyed these parties.
Man, it sounds like the
lots of
food was
food.
amazing.
Lots of fun. If Trina's still tuned in, she remembers the Toto song that we all danced to on repeat for like 6 hours. We even brewed beer. One of our
What?
friends, Kim.
Oh yeah, Timmy's
we-
plastic mattress.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sunday diary. I love it.
I remember that guy. He was tasty. Nice chicken, barbecue chicken.
And it
Mm.
says on the back, Norman, here's to martinis and barbecues. Best wishes, HB. And then from Karina it says, Danny, it should always be Sunday. I'm glad we met. Take care.
That was a
Oh,
good
that's
time.
very cool, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, one day we'll be able to barbecue again.
Indeed.
When they allow people to
We're
barbecue.
at 4:51. We've got 9 minutes left. Are there any topics that you want to share with us, Danny?
Haircuts in order. I don't know if you noticed that. I haven't had a haircut in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had that problem.
Don't worry. HB and I have you covered.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We can dye this blonde to match Danny's. It's not a problem.
Yeah, it's longer than it's been since junior high school, I think.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Ralph Furlong wants to know: will you go back to help Danny? I guess he's referring to the Metro project.
Hey, I'm always open for opportunities, man.
Paul Coleman says, "You remind me so much of your dad right now, Dan. Much love, brother."
Oh man, hey Paul, appreciate that, brother.
Sue
Brother.
Norman says, "Talk some more about the TG Theater Guild."
Yeah, baby.
So can you give us a rundown of the shows you were in the Theater Guild?
Man, so wow, my first play was Gypsy, and then I really found my niche sort of behind the scenes. I enjoyed lighting. I really
Right.
doing lighting, so I think I did, I don't know, 10 shows or something in the lighting booth.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. So I did Gypsy was my first play, and then I did 1,000 Clowns where I had a starring role. And then I think after that, I really just sort of went into the booth, and my mom and dad were both, they were on the stage.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. And so my dad did. He played Sergeant Toomey in Biloxi Blues.
Oh, I seen that poster in the green room.
Yeah, and my mom, she had several Blythe. She did Blythe Spirit. She did several plays. She played Rowena. So yeah, with the whole family got involved. My brother was he did Brighton Beach Memoirs my brother Jeff was in that.
Right.
The whole family affair. A lot of fun.
How cool. Did you guys ever act did all of you participate in a single play at the same time?
I think my mom and dad acted in a play together, and I was in lights. But yeah, you know how the theater is. You got to spread the love and let everybody play, right?
Yeah. I know, but it's still so nice that you can all share that passion, I guess, right?
That was
for
cool.
the theater.
I still remember my dad would show up, and to be a half house, and he'd be sitting in the back just belly laughing, and the whole audience would start laughing because he was.
Right.
Hey, that's very important. An in-house laugher to get people going.
Yep,
for sure.
He was the guy driving the audience from the back.
Oh, that is awesome.
We need to bring one of those back. We need to bring that back. Have someone with a good laugh, an infectious laugh to get the crowd going.
Yeah, totally agree. What was the last show that you ever saw at the Guild then? Was it HB and Bear Claw?
No, because when I was living in Panama, I went to all the shows. I forget what it was, but I saw improv. I saw all the improvs.
All the improvs. All right,
cool. Those are fantastic. I mean, you guys are really, that place is so special. To see it still in all its glory. I remember we actually did a major renovation of it in the late '80s, and I used to play underneath the building, and we were replacing floorboards and framing, and we did all sorts of work there. And that was my dad's specialty. He was always a hands-on sort of craftsman type.
Wow.
And that's how he got involved initially. Was, hey, I can help. And so we did a bunch of work on the building. But yeah, very special place in our family for sure.
Wow, that's very cool to hear, man. Definitely. And now I recognize so many of the names that I saw on the posters in the green room.
Yep.
That is incredible.
Michael T. Norman.
Incredible.
We got another comment for you, Dan. Joe Reed says, Dan Norman, good to hear your voice, man.
Hey, Joe, what's going on? Long time no see. I'm in Notre Dame. Joe lived in the same dorm on campus with me.
Very cool. Well, we're kind of going through that right now with the Theater Guild. The main beam needs to be replaced, so they're trying to figure out how to jack it up and throw in a new beam there.
I know some people who know some things.
Yeah. We need people like that.
Yeah, we need people like that, man. Because right now, and also like the outside of the Guild, the parking lot area.
Oh, it floods still, right?
Oh, good grief! Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
But it's nothing you guys did. It's been like that for 30 years. So
yeah.
So Paul Coleman saying, I got the laugh that will get them all cracking up. Ask anyone that was at the VHS class of 88 30th. There's a video out there. Oh boy, we're getting some inside info.
Seriously, man, this is a place to be.
Love it.
All right, well, we're going on 2 hours, gentlemen. Let's wind it down. We've got 3 minutes left. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's tuning in right now and leaving all these wonderful comments. If this is your last chance to ask engineer Dan Norman about Mega Projects or Theater Guild or anything, even rum and cake. So please send your questions in before we shut down. And back to the perfect rum and coke. What are you barbecuing up there these days? What's your recipe in favor at the moment?
It's weird, but the filete that you buy here just isn't the same.
It's a lot more expensive too. I think it's like $6. It's $12 a pound here.
Slightly more expensive. It's about $25 a pound here. So yeah.
Oh geez.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So I had a nonset tree fall, so I chopped that sucker up. We've been smoking chickens, no problema.
Wow. I tell people here that when we were in high school, we'd go to the beach for a weekend, and everyone would bring a